with after you've made that appointment, what should you do before the meeting? What do you think, Diana? What would be a good idea before the meeting?
Before the meeting, maybe to better prepare.
Wow, I like it. Setting expectations, right? Let me show you something that I put together. It is called a send ahead. So the send ahead is something that would be emailed to the client in either a PDF or it can be in a web form as well. But it's really good. We'll set expectations of what will happen. So this would go along with a confirmation of the appointment. And this is again is one for remodeling. I also made one for home building. Let's walk through this and look at some of the key things you should have in your send ahead. First of all, again, we're going to start off with setting expectations. Okay, what will happen at that meeting? Where will the meeting take place is next. Some things that the lead should be thinking about. Created 5 bullet points here. Everything from what do you like your home about the way it is, also to what concerns do you have about remodeling? You know, and what kind of remodeling experience do they want? They may have never remodeled before. We will then also incorporate some important resources for them. So some information more about us, some photo galleries. We want them to spend time looking at our projects. Also what our clients are saying. So this will be links to reviews, testimonials, so on and so forth. This will then talk some more about how to make a good choice, budget, and then give them a link back to our website, your contact information as a salesperson. If you're going to include lender information here, you can include that. One thing we used to do is create a finance worksheet and show, you know, we would walk people through a finance worksheet, and I'll show you an example of that here as well. Again, your links to your client testimonial. Put those all into a nice PDF, attach it to the email, or create it on a web page. We've done actually the web page, so it's simply a link. Less likely to get end up in someone's spam if it's not a PDF. Now, next part on here is we're going to assume that you will interview 2, maybe 3 different remodelers. So we're going to give them a list of questions and tips of what they should ask any remodeler. And the important thing about this, Diana, is the reason that we want to bring it up is because we're prepared. But if they bring in someone else and they start asking these questions, we want that other builder not to be prepared, where then we look more professional and look like a better fit for the job, assuming it's a job that we want. What do you think so far, Diana?
I think that looks good, and it really raised the credibility in front of the client.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I love that word you use, credibility, because again, we're not being compared so much to the next builder they'll bring in behind us, being compared to their favorite place to do business. So if they've had a really good customer service experience with whatever sort of business place, that's what we want them to think of. And so they get the warm fuzzies when they, you know, hear from us. Doing things that our competitors aren't going to do. People just don't do that. You know, so this is what we really want to focus on. So we're giving them all these tips here. Again, talking about budget, how that's going to be comprised, making sure people ask about references. We created, 22 questions of what they should do. But the most important thing, Diana, that I want to finish with here is what I call the needs, wants, and wish list. So prior to that meeting, I will ask the lead to look at their project in 3 lenses. What do they need to have done in that project? In other words, those are must-haves. They will not be taken out of the scope of work. And then I want them to look at it from what do I want to have in the project and what do I wish I could have in my project. And this is very important because this is how I suggest you break down your pricing as well. When you come back to give them a budget proposal, that it would have more of a lump sum for their needs, and then you would itemize out or break out their wants and wishes. More likely than not, you will come in within their budget with all of their needs, and then they can decide to remove any wants or wishes. So that is really step 1 that I would do, is setting up that send ahead. Any other thoughts, Diana?
Just noticing that for me, in remodeling, especially wants and wishes are at the same level. So I can make the distinction between, so, okay, I need to get things done. That's in my head. And then what I want is what I wish. And I will I will want to implement it no matter what. So I don't think this is good for the budget, but now I realize that my wants and wishes are in the same place. I can't distinguish between them.
Well, and so what you just said is the exact mentality that we want the lead to have. We don't want to come back and include the wants and wishes in the initial budget number because that might push them over where they want to be. I want to come back and say, look, I can do the project within your budget. It will include your must-haves. And then you can decide if you want to take some of these wants and wishes and add them to that. But ultimately, it's your choice. So then they're working against themselves versus I'm the bad guy because the price is too high. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yes, that makes sense.
So let's look at one more thing that I like to send out. I think it's a good idea prior to that first meeting. This is something like a frequently asked question. These questions should really be comprised of the most common objections you get at that initial consultation. So I put together this document when I was working with a client. We had 7 questions that were really just veiled objections that we had heard over and over and over again from our leads. And so let's say the question is, why is pricing so high? So I can break one down on pricing. Well, in this case, they were, talking about the questions they have. They were a custom builder and they were being compared to, say, semi-custom or production builders. So builders that had a base price. So why don't you, what's the base price of your plans? Well, we don't have a base price. So then we broke down and we talked about different types of builders. But this, again, is a document that's going to address those things that the majority of your leads will ask or at least have an objection over. So that's something, again, can get attached to your send ahead, and then you can let the homeowner work through it. If that objection comes up while you're at the meeting, you can pull out this sheet and you can say, hey, we sent this to you ahead of time. Let's review this. No, okay, great. Let's take a look at it right now. What do you think about that one, Diana?
I think it's very smart, and they can really support the client to visualize what's going on. So what's the road? They can clearly see the road.